Welcome back to another episode of the Plate Up Podcast. This is episode 10. That is right, we have made it to double digits. Ladies and gentlemen, I am joined. This is D High, the Coov, and JD Hugh. What is going on, fellas?
How's it going?
What is going on? We are ready to do this. Episode 10.
Head in the can.
Episode 10, our heads are getting bigger by the minute. We're doing big things over here at the Plate Up Podcast. But as always, we appreciate you guys tuning in, and we are going to jump into the weekly catch-up. Mr. Coov, what is going on with you? What you been up to? What you been playing?
So still my usual string of games. Warzone. Well, actually, it's really just been Warzone this week. Nothing else. I have the biggest news to share. No one here has bigger news from the last week. I don't care what happened on May the 4th. No, I'm just kidding. Nothing. I have nothing else. It's really just playing Warzone. I just wanted to get that dig in. Just kind of hung out at the lake this weekend. Went fishing again before the storms rolled in. It's rough fishing right now. It's not the right season, but caught a few, so it was at least entertaining, but nice and relaxing and charged up and ready to do this.
Right on.
JD?
Yeah, man, I've just been kicking it in Warzone. Obviously, a bunch of updates making its way through the game, which makes the game obviously more fun. The more updates that we get, the different the meta changes. So, just kind of been kicking it there. I had the opportunity to come on and play Friday. I did not take it. I had to sit here, drank some wine, and went to bed at like 9:30. So, I'm getting old, and that's part of the problem with having kids. But there's no one in this stream that's going to be more tired than my boy D. D, tell us about it. What's going on?
This has actually been probably the most week that I've had, man. Nothing much going on with me. Played some Legend of Zelda, and that was really it. Back to you guys.
I feel like you're missing something.
Just a little something that the community, I think, might want to know about.
Something that happened May the 4th on Star Wars Day.
So about 9 months ago, I unfurled my lightsaber and to further prove that I am one of the greatest Star Wars fans of all time, May the 4th, I bestowed a gift upon the Force. And it is the birth of my baby girl, Brooklyn Gianna High. So shout out to my baby girl. She is doing well. Her and mom are at home. They are both doing well. And everybody's having a good time, man. I really love kids, man, and always wanted to be a father. And so I consider this a true blessing, man. It's been really awesome. But most of my week was just kind of waiting on her to, give birth to our daughter. And so Tuesday we went in, had the procedure. She was born. We were in the hospital for 2 days. Everything went smoothly. Baby girl passed all her little checkups and exams. Wifey did too. And then we were out of there Thursday morning around noon. So we came home and nothing much really, man. Everything has just been kind of about the baby. I think today was like the first time I actually really sat down and got to play a video game for real. I played some Ghost of Tsushima for about an hour, and that was about it, man. So no gaming for me, but that is it for me, fellas. That is it for the weekly catch-up for this week. And that is going to toss us right on into the news corner. And being that I had a baby, I guess my news kind of is in line with that, because my news is about a baby, a famous baby from a very awesome show, and that is The Office. Everybody remembers when Jan got pregnant and she had her baby, and Michael thought he could have possibly been the father. And he comes to find out, no, Jan went to a sperm bank. And the question was always, who was the father? Now, it was kind of hinted at in the episode that Kevin could have been a possible donator at that particular sperm bank, which made Jan uneasy. But we have learned from the Office Ladies podcast, Angela Kinsey dropped us a little tidbit from the original script of the show, and that is Andy Roddick, the famous tennis player. He is now canon in the Office world, and he is the father of Jan's baby. And this all comes from the fact that him and Rainn Wilson, who plays Dwight on the show, are friends in real life, and therefore got himself worked into the show. So I just thought that was a cool little piece of news to toss out there for this week. The Coov, hit us with your news, sir.
hit up with mine. Well, before we jump to mine, I do have to say that episode on The Office when she talks about the sperm bank and Kevin, like the play between her and Kevin is priceless. So funny. Like, oh, it's exclusive. You want to know? Yeah, is it the one back behind that store?
The look on Jan's face when he says that's what sells it, man.
Oh my god, that's so funny. But all right, I'm glad we know who the baby is. All right, so for my news, I'm going to take us to the MCU, the ever-changing, ever-evolving universe, and that is talking about my man Drax from the Guardians of Galaxy. Dave Bautista, the actor that plays him, does a killer job as Drax. Can't see him because he's invisible because he just moves so slow. Has revealed that he's thinking about leaving the MCU. He is going to give up the character Drax, but he tweeted out, "Don't worry, they're not going to kill Drax off, but I just think they need to recast it." He's been in a number of MCU movies as Drax. Obviously, the Guardians of the Galaxy. He has the third one coming out here in a couple years, and he's actually getting pitched right now from James Gunn a Drax Mantis movie. So we'll see how that works. But after that, he says he's done. He's getting up there in age. He's 54 years old. He doesn't want to keep doing the role. So he's saying, MCU, it's time to recast Drax.
Here's the thing, man, about like Hollywood in general. I always, I side with the people who say they don't want to be typecast. And I get that. If you're a top tier A-list actor, who you don't even have to audition for anything, roles are just given to you. I get that sentiment. But when you're a guy like Dave Bautista who's still trying to carve out some space in Hollywood for yourself, you may want to hold on to a character like Drax who's really good and you're getting a lot of praise for doing it. So, I mean, just say you're burnt out on doing the Marvel movies, take a break for a while, come back to it. Don't let somebody come swoop in and take your roles, man. Because you never know what they may do with that character in the MCU. The MCU is expanding so much.
True.
Like, you may want to hold on, dude.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think this will be the first time that we've recasted the same person, right? So I don't know how they're going to do that because we all know in the Marvel Universe they either just kill him off, Captain Rogers, and then replace him down the line, or I mean, it's weird that we'll have the same character but with a different actor. So I think it'll be interesting.
Ask War Machine.
Yeah. Hey, they addressed it really well. I kind of like the one-liner Dave Cheadle throws out.
War Machine. Who else? The guy from Warriors 3 and Thor.
Yeah.
He got changed out. Like, there's been a couple actors that have gotten switched out. I mean, it's just they do them quietly. If it's normally not a big character like that. But I mean, obviously with War Machine, pretty obvious. Terrence Howard, light-skinned black man. Don Cheadle, dark-skinned black man. And then plus Terrence Howard went out very publicly too. Like, he didn't leave quietly. Edward Norton as the Hulk. So that dude really messed up the bag with that one, dude. That's his fault.
I think it would have been interesting to see all the MCU movies with still Edward Norton at the Hulk. I don't think he was a bad Hulk. I just think the movie just wasn't MCU caliber.
That's all of the Hulk movies.
That's all the Hulk movies.
Yeah, that's crazy. But JD, what's your news for this week, man?
All right, so my news revolves around, which is probably a little uncommon, but you know me, I'm your Warzone Call of Duty news source. And what I thought was interesting is Call of Duty, or Ravensoft specifically, released patch notes this week addressing several changes that they've made in the game. What I thought was interesting about the patch notes was a whole explanation that they threw in there, finally addressing fans. But not only this, on top of this, Ravensoft has actually tweeted at JGod and at these other streamers who specifically go into the game and restat all the guns for the community and show them what they're fixing, what's wrong with them, what's broken, what's not broken. They are now addressing these three streamers and are bringing them into the fold, saying, hey, these are changes that are coming. We haven't announced everything. By the way, you need to go and look at these items. And so now they're not just sitting quietly and saying, okay, hey, we know that we're changing stuff and we're not putting it in patch notes. And these guys are going through and spending a lot of time looking at it. Now we're trying to bring them into the fold and say we're being more of a community, more of a partnership, which I think is kind of nice. Inside the patch notes specifically, they put a whole explanation about how their mind is and how they tweak the guns. Right? They're like, we're not here to screw people who really like the kilo. And what we've seen is different guns that Infinity Ward nerfed, right? They nerfed them to the ground, and they were completely unusable. They were trash after that, and no one wanted to play with them. What Ravensoft has done is they've tweaked a little, and yes, it's taken over the course of 4 weeks to nerf the Amog, but every time they nerfed it, they put a little bit more in there. Again, it's about the balancing in the weapon balancing as opposed to just nerfing it so that everybody's happy. DMR, for instance. And what they've done is they've just started tweaking these and making them better. Now, what I think you see now is, by the way, if you're playing Call of Duty Warzone, SMG meta's back. But what they've done is they've made a really, really good balance this time around. Intentional or not, we're not really sure. But nonetheless, the balancing in the AR section is really, really good right now. A lot of guns, TTK is extremely competitive. And those that have really good TTK, you have to balance it with a high recoil or low ammo or whatever the case. It's increasing the skill base within the game. So, yes, these are patch notes, and it seems weird that this would be my new subject of the week, but because of what they did inside the patch notes and how they're addressing the community and bringing these members into the fold, I think is only going to make this game more competitive and better down the road. Now, everybody knows we got to address the cheating problem, but they're trying their best on that front, at least Ravensoft's perspective. Eventually I'm sure we'll see an anti-cheat because there's only so many times you can ban the same account over and over again. But I think this is a good step in the right direction for the Call of Duty community. I think there's been a lot of concern about not being able to get these things fixed. And hey, RoboCop's coming into the game too, so you can be happy with that. And John McClane.
Go ahead.
I say it's about time that they gave us an explanation. I know fans have been asking for it. They want to know the decisions behind why guns are changing so much. It's not enough anymore for them to say, okay, we've nerfed the DMR. Oh, but how? Like, what did you do? And then, everyone has to wait for JGod and these other top streamers to tell us what happened. So I'm glad Raven has actually taken a step forward and saying, all right, here's why we did what we did. I mean, I was worried because, for a couple weeks, they said my favorite gun, the AMAX, was going to get nerfed. But actually, now that they've explained, here's exactly what we did to it, I feel better that it's still king of the ARs. They dropped it 1 damage point, so it just kills a little bit slower. But their explanation behind it still made sense, right? They're saying, at distance, this is a distance AR. This is really what we're going to do for it. We dropped it 1 just to drop the TTK a little bit. But here's what we did to these other ARs to bring them up to the AMAX, rather than bringing the AMAX down. And I kind of like that approach that Raven's taken is let's buff the guns. Let's bring them up to be competitive rather than nerfing them into the ground. And then we go through a whole cycle of, okay, here's the gun everyone has to play. That's done. Here's the new gun everyone has to play. Okay, that's done, so on and so forth.
Well, that is going to close it out for the news corner this week. Last week we asked the question, when you watch horror movies, lights on or off? We got a couple answers in. On Discord, we got Merc who says lights off, immersion. Totally agree with that. That's the whole reason I do it. We got Labs, Frozen, and Bacon all also agree with him. Lights off. I don't know anybody who watches horror movies with the lights on, unless they're admitting that they're a big wuss, so there you go. But that was the question from last week, and that brings us into the topic for this week. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Mother's Day. Time to show the mammy some love. And we're going to talk about our favorite TV and movie moms of all time. Mr. J.D. Hugh, give us your first one, sir.
Okay, my first one is a comedian that I really, really enjoyed watching on TV. And I'm actually sad to say that this show was renewed for season 3 and it was canceled because, yes, you guessed it, COVID, which seems to be the answer for everything. In every single situation in the world. Oh, well, you ran out of dollar bills? COVID, because that has something to do with it. So it kind of tilts me because I just found out about that this morning. That season 3 is not being happening anymore due to COVID. But this actor or actress, I should say, is Andrea Savage. If any of you have ever watched the TV show I'm Sorry, and it is on Netflix season 1 and 2, this mom is awfully funny, right? So really, really good mom in this perspective that, she cares about her kids and she's involved with her husband. But the stuff that she does outside of that is bizarre and hilarious. If you haven't watched it, you need to watch it. It's absolutely hilarious. You will not regret it, especially when she talks about being home alone without the kids and without the husband and what she'll do. I haven't met a person yet that's watched all 2 seasons that have come back and said this was a stupid movie or a stupid show. So that's my number 1 on this is Andrea Savage. She, as a mother, is a little sketch at times. Forgot her kid at camp and stuff like that. So overall, really relatable. I think from a mother perspective, right, that this is almost the everyday kind of working mom that can go through these situations. I think it's why she's such a good mom in this show and people can relate to her, but also funny as hell.
This is from I'm Sorry on Netflix. I want to say my wife watched this. I haven't seen it, but she told me it was funny.
They have a whole thing about race in there, D, that you would find absolutely hilarious. They think their daughter is racist, and they have their black friend go to her on the playground, and he comes back. He's like, yeah, she's gonna be in the KKK. It's absolutely hilarious. You would love it. It's nothing but pure comedy gold.
I'll check this out for sure.
I can't believe Coop hasn't heard of it because me and his boss used to talk about it all the time. Right in front of him, which even makes this even more of a bizarre conversation that he didn't even hear about it.
Definitely got to check that one out, man. That's a good one right there. Mr. Coov, give us your first one, sir.
All right. I'm going to go with someone, I'll stick it to the comedy realm for now. This is kind of one of your classic mothers. Of course, she wasn't a mother until much later in the show. She was such a caring mother, such a caring wife. She got into all sorts of hijinks. I'm talking about the original comedian, the bright red-haired Lucille Ball, Lucy Ricardo, played by Lucille Ball, from the I Love Lucy show. So I remember growing up, Nick at Night had all these shows on there. So I had the old 50s TV shows, Bewitched, I Dream of Jeannie, and of course I Love Lucy. And I loved Lucy. She was just so funny. She always tried to do what's best for her family, but always got into trouble doing it. It was cool that Lucy and Ricky Ricardo were actually married in real life. And then they had their son, I think it was their real son who played him, brought into the show. And the kid was just as funny. I mean, you can tell he grew up in a comedy powerhouse and he was going to go far. But I just love Lucy, and I thought she was always a great TV mom.
That's for damn sure, man. Like you said, Nick at Night was a staple for many of us, growing up. Like guys around our age, you remember those days of it being late at night, your parents telling you go to bed. And if you had a TV in your room, Nick at Night was your go-to. And Lucille Ball, you talk about people that are universally loved, man. Lucy Ball was, man, I Love Lucy was the show. And dude, I never saw a woman that funny on TV. Like nobody has matched that energy, man. There have been plenty of imitators, but nobody has been able to capture the way she did, man. And yeah, she was a great TV mom, but it was like even more than that. The hijinks, man, the physical comedy, dude, it was like every episode was an adventure, man, and it was hilarious. I love that show.
Mm-hmm.
That's tremendous stuff.
Yeah, for those of you that don't know, I Love Lucy was originally in black and white.
True.
So for those of you that watched a little bit of The Wizard of Oz and couldn't stand the beginning of it, you probably wouldn't enjoy the show. But for those of you that did find the show or was able to stand the black and white portion of it, which I felt like sometimes made the show better, and in this case was that, right? Whereas I Love Lucy was mainly in black and white. I don't know if it ever went to color or not, but it was actually really, really funny. And was very relatable. And like you said, it was always she's trying to do her best, but it's just Lucy.
I still think some of the classic skits, the Vita Vita Vegemin skit, just gets me cracking up every time I watch it. And then, of course,
Yeah.
the chocolate, like
The
bonbon
chocolate, yeah.
on the conveyor
The
belt.
conveyor belt, yeah. It's one of my favorites, man. All right, that brings it to me, and I'm gonna go with somebody who has starred on 2 shows and been hilarious on both, man. This lady is funny in almost everything she does. She was on Reno 911 and then made her way over to ABC to star on The Goldbergs as the mother, Beverly Goldberg, and it is none other than Wendy McClendon Covey. And you talking about a mom, like her character is basically she's based on a real life woman, and the mom was a smother, basically. She was just all about her baby. She wanted to be involved in every aspect of their lives, and especially the youngest son. She was just all over him and babied him to death. And it turns in some of the funniest back and forth between a mom and kid that you've ever seen in TV history. If you've never seen the Goldbergs, she is hilarious on there, and you should definitely give it a shot. I love Wendy McClendon Covey.
Seeing her on Reno 911, I mean, it's such a funny character. And then my wife and I started the Goldbergs late, like after they were like 3-4 seasons in. We then picked up watching the Goldbergs, and watching this character, like I was getting flashbacks. My mom was this character back in the day. Like she was just, my baby can do no wrong. Everything, it's everyone else's fault. Um, it's just a very stereotypical smother. And Wendy is such a funny actress. Like no matter what you put her in, she's funny. She's in Modern Family for a little bit. She plays a role there, and even that role, like she's not over the top, but she's just funny in her subtle humor. I love the actress, and yeah, Beverly Goldberg is such a good character.
I've actually never seen the Goldbergs, believe it or not. I know this is probably shocking for some of you who listen to this podcast regularly, but I have not ever seen the Goldbergs, so I have no idea who you're talking about.
We're gonna start a drinking game every time JD says he hasn't seen something.
Dude, man, I don't need liver disease, man. Come on.
I think you would like it, JD. I mean, the show
Yeah.
itself is about a family in the 80s, and it's like 80s pop culture, and it focuses on the youngest son mostly, and like he wants to be a movie producer, and he wants to make movies and direct, and it's kind of like his life navigating with this family.
Yeah, basically the kid, like he grew up with a video camera glued to his hand and he taped everything because like at the end of every episode, whatever the episode was about, they typically have a home video that corresponds with the episode and it's pretty much almost a shot for shot remake in the episode.
Yeah.
It's funny, man, and I think you really like it, dude.
Yeah, I mean, it's I've heard of the show. It's not like this is a brand new, I've never heard of the show before type thing. I just have never seen the show. If that makes you feel any better.
Add it to the list.
All right, Mr. JD. Number 2, please.
All right, number 2 for me is I'm going to bring one in. I will tell you a little bit of background about this show. First, I'll tell you what the show is. Everybody loves Raymond. The funny thing is, I really didn't like Ray Romano in this show, but I liked everybody else in the show. And specifically, I loved the mom there, Marie Barron. I think that was her last name, was Barron or something. And she was Ray's mom, and she lived, I think, across the road, not too far, because she was always over. I'm not really sure where the dynamics of that show was, but she would come over and be in their business all the time. And she was always super caring for her, for the boys, and was always putting down the wife and telling her that she needs to treat the boys better and this, that, and the next thing. She was such a good mom. In fact, she actually ended up getting nominated for awards in this show because she was such a good supporting character that they eventually scripted her in full time. So she was supposed to be this part-time character that just kind of came in and out, was kind of like to agitate the family, and then became this like whole thing that was always there with the dad. The dad was hilarious. I don't know if any of you guys have ever saw Everybody Loves Raymond, but it was so stinking funny. The only person I didn't like in it was the main character, Ray Romano. Drove me up the wall. Just I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was his accent or just his comedy, but everybody else in there, even the brother, was like, "I just hate life." It was so funny in this thing, and that just it drove me up the wall. But other than that, she was a fantastic mom. I think everybody who is a son, right, would want a mom like this. You know, someone that's always like, no, you need to take your chicken noodle soup when you're sick, and don't push yourself, and always in your business trying to take care of you, telling your wife that she needs to take care of you more, right? So I think everybody would like that, but then also everybody would hate that. So I don't know. I thought she was a fantastic mom. Comedy gold, obviously, is where most of my moms are going to come in from, just because that's the kind of mom I have. Comedy gold.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way you do about that show. Everybody was an awesome character on that show, with the exception of Ray. I just really didn't like him like that, But everybody else on the show, hilarious, man. The mom, hilarious. The brother, hilarious. The dad, hilarious. Like it seemed like everybody else surrounding them, did their thing, man. And it's just for some reason it just didn't work well for me with Ray. But I agree, she was a good mom.
I'm just going to mirror what you guys said. I kind of agree too. I don't know why it was called Everyone Loves Raymond. It was Everyone Loves Everyone Else but Raymond. I mean, it just. I think you're right. Ray Romano as a comedian, there's just something about him I don't like. He does a bit in The Office when Steve Carell leaves and he's a potential new manager. But I hated his character in The Office. He's only there for like 10 minutes total screen time. But the mom character, so funny. I thought she was great in that show. Absolutely.
Yeah. Poor thing died shortly after the ending of that show, too.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Kuth, what do you got for us number 2?
All right. So I kind of went with a theme when I was coming up with my picks. Like I wanted each mom to have a different characteristic that stood out from the others. So Lucy was kind of like your goofy, good-hearted mom. I'm going to go with your champion mom. I'm talking a mom who fought for her kids, who just gave everything, including her own life. There was nothing this woman wouldn't do for her kids. And I'm talking about Catelyn Stark from Game of Thrones. Now, when it came to the Stark clan, you don't mess with this Mama Wolf. She will go after you and anyone that hurts her pups. She was such a good character that she was subtle in what she did. She never stood in the limelight. She was never front and center, but she just helped promote her kids the best way she could, helped to try to get her son to take over the throne. Like she was a little manipulative, but not too bad. She was playing the game the best she could, being a woman in a time period that women didn't have too much power. Great character. I loved every aspect of Catelyn. When the wedding hit, it was very sad to see her go. I know the books continue her. I haven't read all the books, but I understand the character does not die. Well, dies at the Red Wedding, but she comes back. But going off of just the TV show, I thought this was a powerhouse of a mother. And the wolf icon was perfect for Family Stark.
Dude, I gotta agree, man. What a mom. She did care about her kids all the way up until the end. To the fact, she's holding the knife to the girl's throat and telling them, like, look, just let my son go. We won't retaliate. Nothing. It's like, if you don't, I'm gonna slit this girl's throat. And then, she was up into her word, man. She slit the girl's throat and got her own throat slit, and she went out like a G, man. But a good mom, and truly, held it down all the way into the end, man. I really loved it.
So I know this is going to be shocking for everybody. Don't kidding.
I've never seen Game of Thrones.
I don't even know what this thing is. Game of what? No, I would agree. Probably my least favorite character in Game of Thrones, oddly enough. In the books, she's way more relatable. In the show, I just feel like they underutilized this character compared to what they did in the books. And I don't know if it's the actress who played it or if they just, the writing in it was always a little on and off. Sometimes they were spot on with the books and then sometimes it kind of deviated from the books. So it was always a little weird for me. but I grew to like her right towards the Red Wedding, and I think maybe that's where my downfall is. And so maybe I need to go back and rewatch the series, which is what I plan on doing after I finish up the books and listen to audiobooks now, because everybody knows I'm not going to pick up an actual book. But I do think she was a good mom, at least in the books sense of it. She was always trying to guide. She was a little bit more forceful in the books about guiding, Rob. Was it Rob? No, yeah, Rob. Yeah, guiding Rob, and she did hand out the Kingslayer in order to get the girls back from Cersei, which we all know never actually takes place because everything boils away too fast and they never get there. But I do feel like she had the right intentions. I think she made some foolish moves, and I think she probably could have forced Rob maybe to listen a little bit more and not take another wife. In the books, it was a little weird because he takes a wife when he got injured, which is similar to what he had there, but he took it from a lesser house, but an older house, which only infuriated, was it River Run? I think. Only infuriated River Run. So it is an interesting dynamic how they changed it. Obviously, putting it in a show would take a long time, and you don't have that back history like you do in the books. But nonetheless, I felt like she was a good character. I don't know. I felt like she could have been. I think she was just underutilized, in my personal opinion.
I could see that.
Yeah. Good mom. Well, I guess that brings it to me. My number 2 mom. We're going to go ahead and jump into the animated space. We're going to talk about Miss Helen Parr, a.k.a. Elastigirl from the Incredibles franchise. I really love Helen Parr. She is amazing. What a great mom. What a tremendous superhero. I was glad, part in the Incredibles 2, the focus was on her being the main, hero in this one instead of it being Mr. Incredible. And they let her get some shine and her do her thing and kind of save the day. So I thought that was really cool, man. And she's just a regular mom trying to raise her kids, trying to take care of her family, who happen to all be superheroes and have powers. But she just wants a regular life for everybody. And her husband seems to be the one that can't let go of the glory days. And so what does she do? She reluctantly takes the mantle back up and jumps back in the fight with her husband. And we are off on one of the greatest adventures in animated film history.
I mean, to be the counterpart to Mr. Fantastic from the Fantastic Four, having the same stretchy powers, she just does it better. I mean, she's just a lot cooler. Is definitely that kind of cool mom, but being a superhero, definitely helps out. She's grounded, but knows that she kind of has to use her powers, and she uses them in very unique ways. Whether it's turn herself into a parachute or a motorboat in the first one. I've seen the second. I don't remember it. I've only seen it once, or I've seen the first Incredibles a few times, so those stick out in my head more readily. But I mean, great character, a great Pixar mom, because Pixar is big on their moms.
I'm only going to say this 2 more times after this.
I've looked at the list.
But I've looked at the list. I have not seen this show.
Surprise.
I vaguely know just based off the commercials what she looks like and what they do. I just had never, The Incredibles to me never drew me in, right? And maybe it's because my kids were super young at the time and I really wasn't into animated stuff as much, and just kind of, it's never been my genre to get into like anime, for instance, like Attack on Titan and crap like that. I just have never found that draw to get there ever since Pokemon ended for me here. But I don't know. Maybe I bet you I'd give it a shot. If I came in, the boys were watching, I'd probably watch it and then maybe get hooked on it and know what you guys are talking about. I know she stretches really, really, really far, but I've just never seen the show and know anything that she does at all other than stretch.
Dude, I think this thing ends with the world basically ending and JD being the last man on earth, like I Am Legend, and him going to the movie store and grabbing all these films. Never seen this, Just him and a dog.
You guys would be bored. See, me, it'd be a new adventure every day. I'm like, what? Incredibles, jackpot? Put that bad boy in.
He's cracking into the red boxes with a crowbar to kind of get to the movies.
He's supposed to be looking up a cure. He's supposed to be up there putting together a cure. Instead, he's over there binging shows he hadn't seen.
My dog's barking. I'm like, hey, not because the monsters are outside, but because you're ruining the television experience. Shut up.
Don't spoil this for me. All right, JD, give us your next one, man.
Okay, so my next one is going to be yet another one from Comedy World. And this is none other than Claire Dunphy. Claire Dunphy is another one like Andrea Savage, where this mom is thrown in and just does stuff that is kind of crazy, but also is a loving, caring mom and wants the best for her children. And this mom here, if anybody has ever seen Modern Family, ends up becoming one of the key figures. Actually, even overtaking her husband, because he starts getting less screen time towards the end of the series than he did at the beginning of the series. And he actually kind of made the series. And then you had Cam and all them as well. But he was kind of that main drive around it. And they shifted more towards her. She has her own career, takes over her dad's business. Her and her brother don't really get along that well. And then they do get along that well. And then they don't get along. And so there's a back and forth there. I think the whole show itself was really, really funny, but I think she was definitely a pivotal part of that. And then, of course, you've seen those kids actually grow up on screen, which was even cooler. They didn't ever get replaced. They were the same kids from start to finish. And her influence on them in real life outside of that show had an impact on their comedy in the show, which I think also helped make that show more special. So that's my mom.
I love me some Julie Bowen, man. You talking about a lady that is funny. She's a hilarious actress, man. And a Modern Family, I it would be criminal to call it an underrated comedy because it's not an underrated comedy. It's won all types of awards. But dude, a lot of people talk about Phil Dunphy when they speak of comedy in the show. You know, he gets a lot of credit. Dude, they don't speak enough about Claire Dunphy, man. What a hilarious character. What a funny TV mom. You know, she's easily in the upper echelon of TV moms, man, because she was hilarious and Julie Bowen played her to perfection, man. I really love that show.
Yep. I thought the show was great, personally. Just sad
So-
it's not.
We're doing a rewatch now of Modern Family now that The Office is on Peacock, and I'm really starting to appreciate all over again her comedy. Because you're right, like in early seasons, it's all about Phil, and like Phil's the head of the show, and like I mean, he's funny, he's a great comedian, but we're about midway through the seasons now, and like she's starting to take more center stage, she's starting to build up. I mean, she's really funny. And just again, it's a different type of humor. I mean, Julie Bowen herself. I mean, what a character actress that she is. I mean, she was in Happy Gilmore, which many people forget. She was the love interest. Boston Legal with Shatner. You know, she plays one of the lawyers there, and it was funny because I had finished Modern Family, then went back to watch like Boston Legal because my wife had never seen it, and I loved that show. And like seeing her, like I had a hard time disconnecting her from that Claire Dunphy role. But I mean, great actress, really funny, and I'm with you on Claire Dunphy. She's kind of the key of that show in the later seasons.
Absolutely.
Yeah, amazing show. All right, the coup, your next one, please.
All right, so continuing with my theme on standout characteristics, I'm going with the ultimate sacrificial mother. And I mean, she sacrificed everything for her daughter. She sacrificed her hair, she sacrificed her teeth, and ultimately she sacrificed her health. I'm talking about Fantine from the show Les Miserables. Obviously a Broadway show, but they turned it into a movie, so that's why I put it on this list. Played by Anne Hathaway on the most recent version of the show, of the movie. Great character overall. I mean, she works for Jean Valjean in the factory. Some of the other people find out that she is like sending all of her money to this innkeeper who's watching her daughter, and they run her out pretty much because they think she's a prostitute. And she has to actually become a prostitute to keep paying for her daughter to make sure her daughter has a good life. Ends up selling her hair because it goes for a lot of money. Ends up selling her teeth. Prostitutes herself out, and I mean, it's such a sad visual of watching this poor woman who just wants her daughter to survive, just wants her daughter to live a happy life, and the things that she has to do to guarantee that. Ultimately, giving her daughter to Jean Valjean.
Yeah, Les Mis, man. That we've had this discussion before, man. I really like that, that show, and you know, what a tremendous mom, man. And Anne Hathaway, she's the prototypical actress. She's gonna go all the way. So when it came to cutting the hair off, she had no problem doing it. And I remember her chopping it all off and shedding the tears on screen and everything. And so what a tremendous mom, man. Let's go ahead and kick it to JD so he can say, I was in Japan, never saw this, What is a Les Mis?
I'm only going to say this one more time after I've not seen this show.
Surprise, surprise.
It'll bring a tear to your eye. It's a good musical.
Yeah, I only watch good shows. I doubt I'll be watching a musical. They already fooled me with Baton Rouge. All right, I'm not going to fall for it again.
One of the most award-winning musicals. Nope, it's bad. He's not going to watch it.
Absolutely not. This isn't what he does. All right, I guess that'll jump it over to me. Ladies and gentlemen, when I think of the prototypical mom from the 70s, this is who I think of first. She fits like a glove in this particular time period. So many people that have talked about their moms from the 70s have described this woman to a T. She was hilarious, her laugh infectious and so memorable, and the show overall, everybody was hilarious on this show. If you have never seen this show, you need to watch it and add it in your rotation immediately. And that is Deborah Jo Rupp as Kitty Foreman from That 70s Show. Ladies and gentlemen, what a funny, funny character. And I mean, you talking about the polar opposite to Red Foreman and how they played with one another. Oh my God, what chemistry between those two as an actor and actress. Man, I love Kitty Foreman, man. She was so hilarious, would come in with the one-liners. The time she called Eric a dumbass, too. Oh man, what a funny show. And That 70s Show is tremendous.
It's such a unique voice. There is no mistaking that actress's voice. But her role in That 70s Show is just funny because she's definitely that understanding mom. She knows what her kids are doing down in the basement. She fully knows what they're doing down there, and she plays like she has no clue. She's naive. No, she's not. She knows what's going on, but she's protecting her kids from Red.
Oh yeah.
Kitty was actually going to make her way on my list until I see that you had posted it. Kitty Foreman is absolutely hilarious. One of the best moms on TV. Like you said, she knows what the kids are up to. When they're not in there and they're out there skirting around outside, where Red would call them dumbasses. She knows that they're up to something they're not supposed to be. She knows all the stupid stuff that they're doing. But she's such a good actress that makes you feel like she's actually their mom. And it's just like in her own little world and knows that she deals with Red. And Red's just kind of this grumpy old man. And I love this show. This show was so funny. And I think she was a main part of it. Her and Red, I think both were a main part of this show that really kind of helped sell it because they always had good supporting lines and good supporting roles that are realistic of what parents would do at that time, right? In the 70s. That's why it's called the 70s Show. And I felt like it was just spot on. It was just a perfect show for me. And I think the mom definitely helped sell it for sure.
Love that show, man. Like, I think if for people who've seen That 70s Show, if you say Kitty Foreman, we can all, without even having to go look it up, can hear the laugh in our head because it's so distinct and funny, man. And and then you can all hear Red saying dumbass because he says it in such a unique way. Like, every character had their moments on there, and I just feel like, dude, it was such a highlight, and it was all brought together. All the actors just worked so well together. But Deborah Jo Rupp as Kitty Foreman was tremendous, man. I really liked her on there. Mr. JD, your next one, please, sir.
Coming in here, this will be number 4 if I can count correctly, and this is going to be one show that I ended up not watching the beginning of, then was brought into it by my wife, and then had to watch the whole series from beginning to end to understand what was going on. And this is Friday Night Lights. If any of you have ever watched Friday Night Lights, it has a lot of big name characters in it that were not big name at the time, ended up becoming a big name shortly after the show ended. And this show was about obviously a high school football team, the Panthers, and their ride to the championship, and eventually the demise of the school and the splitting of the districts and whatnot. And you follow this football coach around, essentially, is what you're doing. But his wife, Tammy Taylor, has a daughter that she's raising, ends up getting pregnant, and it becomes a mom again shortly after her kid's like 16 or 17, and has to relive the entire thing. Also, working mom, she's the counselor at the school. Ends up leaving at the very end of the series and goes to another school or university where she becomes like one of the head teachers there. And overall, really good show. This mom really kind of was like your typical homemaker type mom. She was in charge, obviously, like I said, as a counselor, but she was very involved in her kids' lives. She was involved in all the kids' lives, especially the football program, because that's where her husband was the head of. Overall, just really good show, really good mom. I felt like she definitely resembled a lot of modern day moms, where we were just talking about the 70s kind of mom. This one is more of a modern day type mom, where in a Texas town that's big on football.
I loves me some Connie Britton, man. I got me a big crush on Connie Britton. It's been that way for years. I love Friday Night Lights. What an underrated show, first of all. And she is very good on there. And like JD said, there are a lot of big name actors that blew up after this show. Michael B. Jordan's on there, I mean, you think about all these big name people that came through that show, but Connie Britton, tremendous on that show, man. She's good in everything, really. But she's very good on Friday Night Lights. If you've never seen it, add it to your immediate binge list.
Yeah, for real. Such a good show.
I haven't finished the show, but I'm, I think, 2 seasons in. I agree with what you guys are saying. Connie Britton's a tremendous actress. I loved her in American Horror Story, the first season of that. She did such a great job in that one. And from what I saw in what I have seen in Friday Night Lights, I mean, I can't say anything new, so I'm just gonna say I agree.
Yeah, like Dee said, man, she's not bad looking. She's relatively young. I would say crush wise, yep, probably there as well, Dee.
Tip of the cap to you, sir. All right, Mr. Coov, your next one, please.
All right. My next characteristic is the ultimate manipulating mom. This is the one who only cares for herself and getting, see that her ends are justified. I've talked about her in a previous podcast. I'm talking about Lucille Bluth from Arrested Development. Kind of as I mentioned before, this is the ultimate manipulator. You think she's just this kind of dumb mom, doesn't really know what's going on, but she knows what's going on, and she has this whole plan set up. George Bluth, her husband, gets put in jail. You kind of learn that in later seasons that really she should have been put in jail instead, but she kind of manipulated the company so everything's in his name. But aside from her manipulation, she has a very unhealthy relationship with her youngest son, Buster. I mean, they go to the Mother Boy costume contest or Mother Boy dance or something like that. So wrong on so many levels, because it's really meant for mothers and they're like 6-year-olds, and Buster's probably in his 20s, the character, and she's going with him dressed up as sailors. This is a mom that you want to avoid, because she is going to manipulate it, and she's going to get her way, and you're not even going to know it.
Dude, that's absolute facts you spit there, sir. Like when you talk about manipulation, I think the thing that does it with her, like, because with a character like Cersei Lannister, her manipulation is out front. She's letting you know, I'm going to screw you over first chance I get. You're going to die in this way. With Lucille, it's like you said, she plays this such a laid back, shy character, but then everything is just a manipulation, man. It's all behind the scenes, and as it's revealed throughout the show, it's just funny, man, how everything lays out.
So this should be the last time I have to say this. I've not seen this show.
Surprise, surprise.
Which, if you listen to last week's podcast, I feel like I'm being set up here because they knew I hadn't watched the show and they threw it in there anyway. So let's not act like we're surprised here.
All we did was turn on the damn TV, man. It's not our fault. You know. I guess that brings me to my number 4. And we're going to take it the wholesome route on this one. Ladies and gentlemen, you talking about a really good mom, a really wholesome mom who cared about her kids. She was successful in her own personal career. It just really stood out as an all-around mom. When I was a little kid, I was like, man, this lady reminds me of my grandmother. You know, she was beautiful, a hard worker, and really loved her family. And we are talking about Phylicia Rashad as Claire Huxtable on The Cosby Show. We're not going to talk about that other person involved on the show for obvious reasons, but Claire Huxtable is about as wholesome as they get, man. When you say if you could pick a TV mom, this may be in your top 3 choices. This has to be a go-to. Claire Huxtable is the damn truth. And I'll have no negativity thrown her way, sir.
So I have a bone to pick with her. No, I'm just kidding. So over the weekend, I was with my in-laws, and we threw this question out, like, what are your favorite TV moms? Because they listen to the podcast. Hello, everyone. And every single one of them, because they weren't all in the same room when we asked the question, all of them put Claire Huxtable on their list. I mean, this is definitely your iconic mother when it comes to TV moms.
So first, I'd like to apologize to Meg's parents for anything I may or may not have said in the show. Anyway, I know America's Family, right? That's what the Cosby Show was America's Family. You are correct, Dee. She was a young, beautiful woman who was successful. She ran the show. Everybody wanted to have a mom just like her. She was wholesome. There wasn't any kind of Arrested Development type feel to it. She wasn't trying to like get the kids and have like an uncomfortable relationship with anybody. She was true to her husband. You felt that relationship. You felt that connection on TV. Before Bill Cosby got crazy and did all the weird things he did, or at least was exposed about it, this was what used to be called America's Family. Everybody loved this show and everybody loved her. And everybody still loves her, not so much Bill.
Yeah, I feel like with like Phylicia Rashad, because she played such a good character as Claire Huxtable, like she kind of left that imprint, a lot of people who grew up watching her. So much so, like even today, when I see Phylicia Rashad in something, like when I saw she was in Creed and played his mom, in there, I was like excited, like, oh shit, Phylicia Rashad's in this. Like you get excited to see her because of that mark she left those years ago, man. Like Claire Huxtable was such a wholesome mom. I felt like not only did young kids want that to be their mom, I feel like a lot of moms wanted to be like Claire Huxtable. They wanted to be successful in their career, be a great mom, a great wife. Like they wanted to check all the boxes. And man, she set the bar really high with that. Mr. JD, your last one, please, sir.
My last one, I too, based on the inspiration from the D, will go ahead and keep this wholesome. Because that's the kind of man I am. Who is more wholesome after the Cosby Show than the Brady Bunch? And that's right, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about Carol Brady, the mom to 3 beautiful daughters who got married to a husband with 3 beautiful sons. And had that Brady Bunch. Everybody loved this family. This was another American family that everybody loved. This mom was wholesome, down to earth. I know they kind of got a little carried away with her character towards the end of the show, but realistically, throughout this entire show, you felt like she was genuine. She was there supporting the kids, supporting the husband, went to the events for the kids, was in the PTA, you name it. This was a typical suburban mom, and people loved it.
Yeah, I was a big fan of the Brady Bunch growing up. So I mean, you would see it, and it was so much different to like grow up in a household where like, it's not a TV household. You live in reality. But on TV, everybody's perfect and wonderful. And, Mrs. Brady was always awesome. She was always kind and gentle with her kids, and there was never any raising of the voice. And like you said, the prototypical PTA mom who would pack their kids' lunches before school and all this stuff. Like it checked all the boxes, man. It made you want to tune in every week as a little kid. Like, I just need some of that in my life, man.
Yeah, you knew she was upset when she threw those hands in the hips. Marsha, get over here.
So I'm going to say this just one time. No, I'm kidding. I have seen the Brady Bunch. I'm not a huge fan of the Brady Bunch. I never really was. On Nick at Night, it was a show I always skipped. I didn't really care for it. I've seen enough to understand who Carol Brady is and the wholesomeness that she brought to the family. I guess for me, it was just the kids that ruined it for me. I just didn't like the kids. It was just, I don't know, something about them, little Children of the Corn-esque for me. But when it comes to iconic mothers, Carol Brady always hits that list as your perfect mom for the time period. And everything was just perfect and everything was like where it needed to be. And I mean, that's Carol Brady. I mean, I was kind of the Stepford mom, I guess.
All righty, Mr. Coov.
All right. So for my final one, going with my characteristics, she is a combination of them all. She is a champion for her kid. She sacrificed. She was good-hearted and a little bit manipulative, but she, all in all, was just a badass. I'm talking about Sarah Connor from The Terminator. This is a woman who was thrown into a war that she was not a part of. It was not her time. It was from the future, and she took it like a champ and kicked some ass along the way, taking out a couple Terminators in the process across the series, escaping from one. Really, they're all Arnold. But even with the most recent one, they brought her back, and she was still a badass in that. This was a mother who did anything for not only her son, but for the future of the world, because it all rested on her son. Talk about pressure from your mom. But great character. I love the Terminator series. I've seen every single one of them. I was super excited when they brought her back in the most recent. This is my number one pick as badass mom.
Right on, man. I'm definitely a huge fan of Sarah Connor, man. I mean, you're talking about a mom that literally did anything to try to save her kid's life, man, including taking on the goddamn Terminator. And, just on the run, man, trying to fight him. I mean, when they show T2 and she's like in the insane asylum, like locked up, but she's working out and like remember like that whole thing, and Linda Hamilton got like shredded, and like that was a big news thing right there. Like she had abs and arms was all cut up, and it was like, dude, this mom takes her job very seriously, and she knows the danger that's out there, man. I love Linda Hamilton in that role as Sarah Connor. And you talking about the prototypical mom, this is how far you would want your mom to go to save your ass. So hell yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, she's a mom, like you said, that's a complete badass. Didn't ask for any of this, thrown into all of it. Only mom that I'm aware of in TV, at least for a while, that got her own series and having such a minor role in the movies to actually end up coming back and then having her own show, which was kind of funny. I think it was a great show, great twist on everything. I like how they brought her back in the other movies, or in the new movies, protecting that girl, because now she's the only hope for humanity. I'm not really sure where the twist is here, but I do think that the Terminator movies have been great. She's always played a good, important role, even when she wasn't there. Right. So, in Judgment Day, or was it part 3? I can't really remember. Where inside her coffin was nothing but a whole bunch of guns, and Arnold takes the boy there to go get it. I mean, come on now. This is just everything that's set up around this mom is about weapons and saving her son. And even when she's not there, it's still there. Great mom, in my opinion. I think it's everybody's mom thinks they're this mom too, right? Like, if you come after my boy or my daughter, I will kill you. Right? That's their mindset. And she just does it, right?
Hell yeah.
All right. D, bring us home.
Dude, There's a reason why I saved this lady for last. And it is because she is the one of all the moms mentioned today. She is the one that most closely resembles my personal mother, myself, man. If you've ever seen Malcolm in the Middle, you are in for a treat. If you know who Lois is, my goodness, what a mom that Lois was. If you've never seen Malcolm in the Middle, I try to give one scene to look up per episode. Look up the car fight scene with Lois when she gets into a car fight in a parking lot with a lady over a parking spot. It is hilarious. It's one of the funniest scenes from a sitcom that I've ever seen. And just check it out. She is the mom. The reason I say she closely resembles my mom is because she was the mother to 4 kids, and she didn't take any crap off of her kids. She gave it just as well as she got it. And she loved her husband, much like my mom, loved my dad to a fault. And it was all about the hilariousness, the exchanges between this is a lady who was always at odds with her own kids, but don't you dare come and mess with her kids because then she will bite your head off. And that's exactly who Lois was from Malcolm in the Middle. I love her. She's probably, if it wasn't for Claire Huxtable, she'd definitely be my number one mom of all time. So
She checks all those boxes, right? Like she's just fighting with her kids because she wants them to do good. But she's hot-headed herself, so not always the best example. But at the end, she is. Yeah, defend her kids tooth and nail to the end. And then, I mean, for those who haven't seen it, I won't give a spoiler, but kind of the series finale, she kind of gets to start over.
Yeah, so this one was also going to make it to my list. Oddly enough, you had two of the same moms on your list that I would have picked on mine, and this was another one. Man, I'll never forget when she's standing in the damn kitchen with that wooden spoon yelling at those kids, in her robe in the morning. It seems like it was almost a common occurrence. She's always just like, and then you had the other one he gets crazy, ends up going to the Air Force, and you have the youngest one that's just kind of just doing stupid stuff all the time and getting into crap. And the show was really, really good. Obviously, it's a comedy. It was. I think in the '90s is when it was staged, right? And just perfect all around. Malcolm himself is pretty funny. He's just this oddball out of the family, almost like Shelton at the time, right? Where he's just kind of this oddball, smart kid. But she definitely plays a fantastic mom. I think she's probably the most realistic mom that I think most of us probably had that would tolerate a whole lot of crap and gets a little crazy at times.
yeah, that's why I had her, man, as the most close to my mom because she, like you said, she's the most realistic. And this is how my mom was, like she was like, she didn't take no crap. And if we did, for some reason, get crazy with her, she'd get crazy right back. But also in the same token, if anybody ever messed with us, they had to deal with Mama Bear. And that's how my mom was. And she's still that way to this day. So, you know, that's why I love the Lois character so much, man. And the pilot episode, dude, is what sold me on this entire show. Like just that little exchange, the family sitting there eating breakfast, and she's shaving Hal while he's naked reading the newspaper at the table in front of the kids. And she's like arms up, and he lifts the paper up, and the boys are like, "Oh, I love that show, man." But that is it for me, Mr. JD. Your last one, please, sir.
That was my last one.
It was?
Yeah.
Wait. Oh, okay. Oh, I was the last one. My bad.
Yep.
Well, that is it for our good topic this week, but it brings us to the question this week. Of all the TV moms, of all the movie moms, who's your favorite? Mr. JD, your favorite, please, sir.
So mine here, I will say, I don't know if you've noticed, but when I was posting this list, it was very hard. There's a lot of good moms out there. Margie Simpson being another one that's just a really good mom that I didn't get to put on the list. But I think out of all of them, who is probably the top, and that's the mom from the 70s show. I find her probably the funniest. I think she's the best mom. And I feel like she was a lot like my mom, honestly, just not without the high pitched voice. Best mom, my opinion.
Mr. Coov, your favorite, please.
I agree with JD. It's kind of tough. There's so many good moms out there. One I struggled with that I wanted to put on my list, but I didn't, is Morticia Adams from
Yep.
the Adams Family, because she's such a good mom. I think, though, I'm going to have to go with the classic Lucille, or Lucy from I Love Lucy, not Lucille. Lucy Ricardo, I think those later seasons when she is a mom in the show are just priceless. They're just so funny.
Yeah, I feel like you guys, it was hard to narrow down a list. Peg Bundy didn't make anybody's list, although she was a very memorable TV mom. I had Aunt Viv as a good TV mom, and I didn't put her on there. But I have to say my favorite is the classic Claire Huxtable, man. She was just perfect, dude. Like, I can't really pick out any flaws for her where I could probably go and narrow down flaws for everybody else listed. I can't really pick any out for her, man. She was perfect.
I agree. She's a good
That
one.
that is our answers for. Go ahead. man.
Just to let everybody know about the I Love Lucy character, registered as a communist and and hosted a communist party leader as well. So just funny to see how she came off very wholesome, very Americanized in the show, but her personal real party affiliations were different. So it just shows how that character was able to project what America wanted at the time. Because remember, this was at the height of the time where if you were communist in the United States, you were run out, right? And she was a registered communist.
Did not know that. Might need to change my pick.
Just a fun fact to know and tell your friends. Sorry, want to make sure we had that just because I always remember hearing that, and I just had to look it up to make sure it was real before I spouted my useless knowledge on the podcast.
That does surprise me because I've seen clips of her in there was a game show called What's My Line Again or something like that where the contestants were blindfolded and they'd have a celebrity come out and they would ask them questions and they had to guess who the celebrity was. And she was a regular on that show, and it was just very, you just wouldn't think of her as being a registered communist.
Yep, she registered to vote in 1936 and 38 as a communist. In 1936, she also sponsored a Communist Party candidate in the 57th district. She also signed a certificate saying, "I am registered as affiliated with the Communist Party."
Well, damn.
Interesting.
Fun fact to know, tell your friends. Like I said, this is America, baby.
And no one can say this podcast didn't teach you anything.
Exactly.
The more you know. Well, that was the question for this week for you guys. And that is, who is your favorite TV mom or movie mom? And you can give us the answers to that. You can give it to us on our Twitter at Played Up Podcast on Twitter. Hit us on the IG, Played Up Podcast on IG, on TikTok, Played Up Podcast over there on TikTok. You can also send us an email at podcastplayedup@gmail.com. Please send those answers in for us and we will read them. You can also hit us in the Discord, the Death's Door Discord, where you can reach out to the Played Up Podcast crew. We are all over there. Some of us are more active than others. I'm talking about myself specifically. So please send in your answers and we will read them on next week's episode. But this is going to go ahead and wrap us on up. Make sure you listen to the Played Up Podcast on Spotify, Google Podcast, and Apple. And if you listen to us on Apple Podcast, please leave us a rating, subscribe, review. Let us know how we're doing over there. This helps us get the word out about the podcast and helps us get the buzz going so we can keep this party going. But this is going to wrap up this episode of the Played Up Podcast. You guys, I'm laughing because I'm looking at these two's reaction right now. They're trying to get the timing down on this one. So, but this has been another episode of the Played Up Podcast. Please join us next week, episode 11 coming next week. And we are going to be back in the games again. This time, because we already talked PlayStation and Nintendo, next week we're jumping back into the good old Xbox. We're going to talk about our favorite Xbox games of all time. So please join us for that discussion on episode 11. Episode 10, it's in the books. I'm D High. That's the Coov. That's JD Hugh. We'll catch you next time. And as always, don't forget to play it up.